If you can believe the computer, it is now 6 o'clock. I have already called the meeting to order at our 4:30 time before the closed session. And so I'm going to ask Mr. McCraw, Robbie that is, to lead us in our invocation and our pledge.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we take this opportunity to thank you for this day and for this group that has gathered together. And Lord, just ask you to watch over us and protect us and keep us safe. Lord, we ask that you just continue to bless us in each and every way. And just, Lord, ask that you be with Tracy and his family as they're dealing with the death of his dad. And just continue to comfort that family and just show them the love and graces of everyone. Lord, we ask that you help us conduct this meeting in peace and harmony. Lord, we ask that you take us home at our appointed time and keep us safe in all our travels. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. McCraw. It's good to be with everybody alive again. Last meeting I was quarantined after a friend of mine was testing for COVID. Fortunately, he tested negative, but he was pretty sick. He ended up with strep. And it's good that we can open the meetings up a little bit more than we have been in the past, so I'm glad to see you all in the audience that were able to come tonight. We will have citizens' time, so if you need to sign up for that, it's the next item on the agenda. So Crystal has the list up here if you need to sign up for citizens' time. We'll give you 3 minutes to discuss just about anything that's on your mind. I do want to add one thing to the agenda, and it would be just before the adjournment. I'm going to put back supervisors' time so that the individual supervisors have a chance to talk about anything on their minds. So if you would, please add that to the agenda. So do we have anybody for citizens' time?
I don't have anyone signed up. Okay.
If you would just go to the podium and I will give you 3 minutes, please state your name if you don't mind.
I want to thank the supervisor for this time to speak. I know this COVID virus, y'all trying to throw stuff down our throat that we don't want, like raising the taxes, pay taxes twice a year. Talking about closing the market, adding 15% on the market. I don't think it's right. And I believe we need a new county administrator. I got the feathers. If anybody got the tar, we'll tar and feather and send them back to West County. And if my last name was McCraw, I'd be worried about running again. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else? No one else, then we will move to our next item. It's payment of invoices. If you had a chance to look at those, I'll accept a motion to accept them. If you have any questions, we will do that after we get a motion in a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to certify being coming back from closed session?
We do. I apologize and thank you for bringing that to my attention. We need a motion to come out of closed session. That's what I should have done in the first place, so sorry about that.
I make a motion we come back from closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, I'll ask for a vote. Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Yes. Now we need to certify that the only thing we spoke about were the sections,
A7.
5, 7, and 8, I believe, is that correct?
That's correct.
I make a motion that we certify that we talk only on A7, A8, and A5.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, please certify if you would, if you agree with that, Mr. Moore,
I so certify.
Mr. McCraw,
So certify.
Mr. Hill,
So certify.
Mr. Webb,
So certify.
Mr. McCraw.
Certified.
Also certified. Now, back to where we were before, the payment of invoices. Thank you for keeping us straight.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we pay the invoices.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Looking through these payments that we're fixing to pay out, I noticed that we're now spending a lot of money with local garages for vehicle maintenance. I understand that this county closed its maintenance garage, and I just wonder if that's going to save us money, because one of the vendors' bill was almost $5,000 for 1 month. I just wonder, was the right choice made in closing our county's own maintenance garage and farming all this out?
Could you speak to that, Mr. Dalton?
I will. What we did when we closed the garage down, we had everybody sign up for EVA, their state contract prices, already pre-negotiated on pricing. And we decided that after the first 3 months, the quarter, to look at that and compare it back to what we were paying for salaries and wages and benefits and buying parts, and to see how that turned out.
As an editorial, I will mention that the PSA brought up the same thing, and they're going to look at it the same way, so I think they will be revisited to see how we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Since you're ready to vote, I'll start with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Yes. Our next item is the consent agenda, excuse me, the consent calendar.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the inclusion of Board of Supervisors time.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Since you're ready to vote, I'll start with Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw. Yes. I'm having a hard time with this microphone. Our next item is our consent of approval of the minutes of the previous meetings.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion. All right, I'll start with Mr. McCraw. Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Yes. Our next item is a business recognition, and this is something we started a month ago, and I've asked Mr. Moore if he would pick someone from his district, and he has done so, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to him for the presentation.
Is Marvin Sharp here? Thought that was him. And I do want to apologize to Marvin and everybody at F&M Construction. You know, I thought long and hard of who I was going to get. My district is really unique the way it covers a lot of great people, and I thought of a lot of businesses, and I wanted to go sort of to one of the ones that's been in business for a long time.
Since 1946.
Since 1946, I know, 70, 80 years, and I want to present this to you on behalf of me, of y'all supervisor and the board, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you a bunch.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations and thanks for your continuing service to Carroll County. And I asked Philip McCraw if he would pick someone from Fancy Gap next month in September to recognize a business in his district. But you can tell then, we'll make it a surprise until then. The next item is a public hearing about our CARES Act funds. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:10. And I'll read the public hearing notice. The Carroll County Board of Supervisors will be holding a public hearing to amend the FY21 budget to include CARES Act funds in the amount of $2,599,150 on Monday, August the 10th, 2020, beginning at 6 o'clock or as soon thereafter as practical. All citizens are invited to attend. So the public hearing is now open if anybody would like to come and speak to that public hearing.
There's no one signed up.
Mr. Dalton, would you like to address that?
Members of the board, citizens, Carroll County received notice from the governor's office 2 weeks ago that we were in line to receive another $2,599,150 of CARES funds that need to be spent by December the 30th of 2020. The chairman, myself, and Benita Williams, the treasurer, signed the required certification, and however, since this amount exceeds the amount allowed by the Code of Virginia to amend and appropriate, we had to have a public hearing tonight. And I'd ask that you, after the public hearing, amend and appropriate this to the budget for FY21.
Thank you. Are there any board members who would like to speak to this? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:12 p.m. Under new business, we have a COVID update.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, I think it requires a motion from the Board of Supervisors and a vote to amend and appropriate the COVID funds into the budget of FY21.
I'm glad you were keeping me on track tonight. Do I
Mr.
have a
Cha-
motion to amend the budget with the CARES Act?
Mr.
funds?
Chairman, I make a motion we amend and appropriate the CARES Act funds to the budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Since you're ready to vote, I'll start with Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Yes. Now, we'll get to our new business and the COVID update. Karen Shelton. Is she here tonight?
Dr. Shelton has asked that we call in and put her on speakerphone, and she'll update us on that. Ms. Adams, did you provide everybody with a copy of?
Yeah. I have some extras.
Hello, this is Dr. Shelton.
Dr. Shelton, this is Robbie with the Carroll County Board of Supervisors.
Hi, Robbie. How are you today?
I'm good. We're ready for you to do your presentation.
Okay, very good. Did everybody get the handouts that I sent? I ended up sending a few more in the end. Sorry. More information. Well, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to talk with you tonight about COVID-19 in Carroll County. As you know, Carroll County has been very hard hit, as have some of our surrounding locations as well. As of today, Carroll County has had 334 cases with 28 hospitalizations and 13 deaths. The rate for Carroll County is approximately 1,127 as a rate of 100,000 population, which is about the same rate as Grayson County. Now, Galax has been even harder hit, and a lot of it comes from where they have a smaller population, but their rate is 5,402, and they do have still the most number of cases in the community at 347 cases. So when we talk about the Twin Counties, they have been particularly hard hit due to COVID-19. For Carroll County specifically, we started really picking up cases at the very end of April and into May. And for the months of May, June, and July, we've had roughly 100 cases per month, although that's up and down just a bit. And it has involved, pretty much all walks of life as far as we have had it in business, industry, some restaurants, long-term care facilities, and it has really affected, all walks of life. And so whenever we have this much in the community, it is considered, substantial community transmission. Over the last few weeks, Carroll County is still remaining stable at about 3 to 5 cases per day, sometimes just 3 to 4 cases per day. So we have worked with, the local government and the local law enforcement, with our schools, with the businesses in the community. Wherever there have been cases, we have worked with them regarding safe business practices. Every positive case that we get, we investigate. We verify that they are indeed a positive case, and then we talk with them about who they may have been in closest contact with over the days that they've been contagious. And then those are considered close contacts, and because they're at very highest risk of getting sick, we put them in quarantine. Those who have the disease COVID-19 are placed in isolation for approximately 10 days. There are some things that will prolong that depending on how ill they are. And those who are in quarantine are in quarantine for 14 days, because from the time you're exposed, you're most likely to get sick anywhere from 2 to 14 days from the time of exposure. So that's the reason for the 14-day quarantine. And even if you get a test, we do recommend people who have been highly exposed can be tested at 5 to 7 days after their exposure. If you test negative, that's great, but that doesn't shorten your quarantine. You still have another week that you could potentially get sick, and that's the reason for the 14-day quarantine. So our strategies have been to increase our testing in the community, making sure there's plenty of testing, and again, doing the case investigation and contact tracing to be able to contain the disease. The whole premise of this is a communicable disease that has spread, of course, across Virginia and the United States, but all over the world. And our strategies have been to try to keep the spread as slow as possible so that we have enough health care available that everybody gets the best health care that they need. During the time that we have worked towards slowing the spread, we want to make sure that our hospitals have maintained capacity, and discussing with Twin County Hospital, they had a lot of cases in the hospital at the end of May and early June, but things have slowed along a little bit as far as hospitalizations, and so they have plenty of capacity at this point. We've worked to make sure we had plenty of PPE for all of our healthcare providers, long-term care facilities, first responders, and those who have needed, and making sure they have plenty of stores for that. And, better treatments have come along than we had back in March February, March, when this first started for us here locally. They now have an antiviral treatment that is very strict guidelines regarding who can receive that, and but it is nonetheless a treatment that can help. And we are ever awaiting the vaccine to become available so that we can vaccinate our population, especially those at highest risk, so that we can cut down on the transmission in the community. As I pointed out in the one-page document, for the very young, there is a very low percentage of hospitalization as well as deaths, although unfortunately we have had people to pass away in their 30s, 40s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. But those who are over 70 are most vulnerable if they get this disease, with 35% of all those over age 70 in our districts being hospitalized, and 21% of all those over age 70 who have gotten this disease have died. So really this is a concerning thing for those who are elderly and medically vulnerable. I know that not everyone in the population feels that this is a great risk to them, and all I can say is that we are really striving to educate people on how we can protect each other in this community and how we can look out for our neighbors and all our community members by doing the things that we can. And the things that we know that we can do at this point are to wear face coverings when we're in public, and especially when we're inside buildings. We can socially distance by being apart so that we have less risk of spreading the disease. And we ask for people to wash their hands a whole lot or use hand sanitizer. And please, if people are home, we really advocate that they stay sick to help decrease the spread of disease. So that's a lot of information all at once. I'll see if you have any questions about that, and then we can go over to the other group of information that we have.
Anyone have any questions, Dr. Shelton?
Can you hear me okay? Or if there's a question, can you repeat it?
There, as of right now, there is no questions, Dr. Shelton.
Can you hear me okay?
It's going in and out, but yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll try to be closer to my phone and speak louder. We also have some new metrics that the Virginia Department of Health has, the pandemic metric sheet, that unfortunately are not available to the public yet. But these are things that we have been looking through and trying to get through these. We've been working some with our school superintendents very closely, and also county and city administrators. And so as the Board of Supervisors, you can see from the COVID-19 pandemic metric sheet, Southwest Virginia, and this is specifically far southwest, so that includes Witz and Carroll, and then down to the tip of Lee, which is most representative of our population, is currently in a substantial community spread. As we look at our metrics, and you can see the little circles, the things that are very significant as far as what we look at are the number of cases, and those are rates per 100,000. We look at the percent of positivity, and that is in testing. So a lot of these things are corollary. As you have more positive cases, of course, you will have more positive tests. So our answer is that we need to increase and do more testing to make sure we are containing the disease as much as possible. Also, we look at the rate of emergency room visits for COVID-like illness, people who are seeking medical care for these illnesses, and they have been going up and thankfully taking a little turn down. We also look at the number of cases among healthcare providers, and we had a lot of these early on as healthcare providers learned to function better with their PPE. Also, as we had long-term care facilities affected, this number went up, and so thankfully that has come substantially down, which is encouraging. We also look at the, and this is the one that is the visit rates per 100,000 in the emergency room, and again, those are going down. The one up above, this print is so small it's hard to make out, isn't it? The one up above was outbreaks. So we have had, several outbreaks among, as I mentioned, various businesses, industries, restaurants, and so those are decreasing as well. Going down to the next tab as far as hospitalizations, again, we talked with our local hospitals, and they have good capacity at this time. And at the bottom, availability of PPE is quite available. As we look specifically at Carroll County's statistics, we can see that Carroll County is actually in the orange, which is an improvement over much of the Mount Rogers Health District, which is still in the red. This indicates that the cases are relatively stable, and you can see from the ups and downs in the graph, again, we have been fairly, I would call it slow and steady in Carroll County. We've had, continued to have cases. They have not been going up exponentially. They've come down a little, but they are still ongoing. And the percent positivity specifically in Carroll County at 15.3. Again, as cases go up, we're looking to increase our testing for containment. And then we look at the number of outbreaks recently has been low for Carroll County, and the percent in healthcare providers is only at 7.1%. I think it's probably a little lower than that at this point. So we look at the trends. Are they improving? Are they going down? And all those help us to kind of determine what is the burden of disease in our community, and are the things that we are doing working. We know that it takes time for the positive things that we do in a community to take effect. It was very plain to see over in the other side of our district the effect of Tennessee opening up. It took about 6 weeks when Tennessee opened up all of their things full bore before we began to see the effect of an increased number of cases, and we're still seeing that effect over in the Bristol, Washington, and Smith County area. So what questions do you have for me about any of that?
Anyone have any questions?
I do. I'd like to ask Dr. Shelton, Joe Webb, Board of Supervisors. In your professional opinion, do you think our schools are safe enough to open up on the schedule that they're talking about? Or I know there's a lot of school districts in the county now are going to start out 100% virtual for the first, maybe even the first semester. And our county has decided to go on an AB day and also offer virtual learning for students. A lot of people are really afraid to send their children to school, afraid that the children will bring it back home to their elderly parents or grandparents or whoever. In your opinion, do you feel like it's safe enough for Carroll to open their schools?
That's a great question, and that's something that I've been talking with the superintendents in all of the districts about, and it's a very difficult question. I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you the pros and cons both ways. We know that opening up schools is very vital for our children. There is, of course, the imminent threat of COVID disease. Thankfully for children, they tend to do fairly well, but as you pointed out, we do have staff and teachers that are elder or may have medical conditions, and as you mentioned quite rightly, they do bring this home with them, and a lot of them have elderly parents or even grandparents taking care of them. So there is legitimate concern regarding attending school in person. However, we know that there is a lot of concern about not bringing the children back in person. We have a lot of concerns regarding nutrition for many of our communities. We do have concerns about child care issues, with parents working, and if they're not in school, are the child care options available, or are they any safer than what they would be finding in the school environment? In other words, school may be safer for them than some of those other alternative possibilities where they may be staying. Also, we look at the social and mental effects of children not going to school, both currently and long term. How can we make sure that our children are doing okay? Sometimes in concerning homes, we have very concerning situations with children, and being able to see them face to face is so important for them and for our community. So there's a lot of concerns about going in person. So those are the good things about coming back, is that we get to be a part of our children's lives in a more interactive fashion and monitor these things. But there are concerns about coming back to school in person. I can tell you that there will be cases. There will be cases in the school. There will be cases in the community. I think that, the fact that we have kind of steady, sustained transmission in Carroll County, that's where we are. Like I said, there will be cases, but the school has put in some great guidelines as far as how do we keep it from spreading rampantly in the school. And those have to do with being able to wear the face coverings in the school, along with the social distancing, and also, washing of the hands, cleaning and disinfection, and of course, making sure that the students do stay home when they're sick. When you have the hybrid plans, I think you're able to kind of fulfill needs on both spectrums. For those who are very concerned about their students and don't want them going back in person to school, or who have, health concerns in the family, offering them that virtual opportunity is great, because then they can choose. If they feel the risk is too high for their student, then they can keep them home, and it's wonderful to have that option. And then for the families who need to send their children, being able to have that AB hybrid, again, does help reduce the spread of disease, because you're able to space out more. Then when you do have a school day, if there's a classroom affected, you have less affected. Having one or two cases in the school, or several, a lot of it will depend on how many, where they are. I do anticipate that we will have classes going out in quarantine periodically, or at least certain groups of students, depending on close contacts. But that doesn't mean you have to close a whole school necessarily, or certainly not even a whole school system. So there can still be in-person learning available for those who need it, for those who want it. And there will, however, have to be a lot of flexibility involved, and the community and the parents and the students and the teachers all need to understand that we have a communicable disease. The school is doing its best to decrease the spread of that disease. We do anticipate that there will be cases, And this year will be unlike any other year we've ever had, as far as it may be that students go home to learn for a time, and then when things are safer, they come back again. So we just ask everyone to be very flexible and tolerant of the things that need to go on to protect the students and yet to educate them. As I've told all the superintendents within my district, I can make a case for every school system to go in person, and I can make a case for every school system to go 100% virtual. Certainly there are a lot of factors in every city and county. In Carroll County specifically, like I said, though, your numbers have been steady. They have been where they have been long term, and we continue to monitor them closely with our case investigation and contact tracing. So if the school is prepared to go on its hybrid method with the virtual option, I think it's a great place to start. I don't know how many weeks of school we'll get in, and if we'll have to go completely virtual at some point. There have been other places in our country and in other countries that have already opened. Some have been able to do so safely and flexibly, and some have had a rampant increase of disease and had to close. So a lot of it, the success of this, has a lot to do with the attitudes of the community, the parents, and the students themselves, as far as how can we take care of each other, and how can we make sure that we're taking good care of ourselves as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I don't think anyone else has anything, Dr. Shelton.
Okay, I'll just mention, I know that we had received a lot of complaints regarding the Hillsville Gun Show and Flea Market, and we have worked with the community partners regarding that, and to our understanding, it is canceled at this time. Is that the general understanding as well that you have?
That is my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay. We were very concerned, with the large volume of people that this brings in from across the country, the amount of disease already in Carroll County and the possible spread regarding that, and very concerned regarding what that would mean for the community, for those in the community who had to work it to keep our community safe, our first responders and other people who volunteer. So I know that it's a very difficult decision to make and economically devastating, and we do hate that for the entire community. But we know that there are no other festivals going on in Virginia at this point of this magnitude, and certainly across our nation, many things have been canceled, and we're very sorry for that. But we do appreciate the public health concern for this and what the community is able to do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, well, thank you all. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was informative and somewhat scary, but also something we need to know about. Our next item on the new business is a smart scale support resolution, which is fairly short, and I'll read it. And this is a support resolution for the Carroll County High School sidewalk project. Whereas a comprehensive, cooperative, and continuing transportation planning process is to be carried out for Carroll County, and whereas Virginia's Smart Scale program established a prioritization and scoring system for the Commonwealth Transportation Board to objectively evaluate projects for funding, and whereas Virginia's Smart Scale program is an application-based process available for counties, cities, towns, regional agencies, and public transportation agencies to apply for project funding. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carroll County Board of Supervisors support and endorse the Carroll County High School sidewalk project, which involves continuing the pedestrian corridor from the high school to the town of Hillsville by providing a raised pedestrian island for the crossing of Route 58 from the high school to the athletic training field, and a hard surface pedestrian accommodation along Route 58. And we'll send that resolution along to the Smart Scale folks if it meets everybody's approval on the board.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote with Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Yes. Our next item on the new business agenda is the health insurance credit. Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Dalton?
Yes, sir. Currently, the employees of the county don't participate in the Virginia retirement system. Health insurance credit, that's a credit that once you retire, you get based off the year's service, a few dollars a month, up to a max. I would ask permission of the board to send the letter requesting that they conduct the study, actuarial study that's required so that we can bring back that information to the board for consideration.
Does that require a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Dalton before we take a motion? Would someone like to make that motion?
I make a motion that we do the requirement to do the, whatever they call it, to do this. This is a pretty good benefit, or at least something. State employees get it a certain amount after you retire for every year that you work. And it's, I think it's a benefit our employees should have.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I guess the question would be the cost, and that depends on actuaries, I guess.
The actuarial study will come back to you and tell you what the cost per $100 per employee is. It'll take the age of all the employees, their term of service, when their anticipated retirement date is, and actuarially determine a rate that would fully fund that over a period of time. Typically, those rates will be like 0.001%. They're very, very low because the amount you get back is $30 to $50 or something typically.
And that's normally, I guess, paid directly to VRS.
It goes directly to VRS. The payment, once you retire, comes to be including your VRS payment, but you have to prove that you have an insurance payment that's offset your insurance after you retire. It could be dental, it could be vision, it could be health care.
Any other discussion? Looks like you're ready to vote. I'll start with Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Yes.
Could I ask a question after the fact? This doesn't affect the school system, does it? They would have to do their own?
It does not. I believe they're already participating in health care.
Okay.
Next item on the new business are two requests from the EDA, Economic Development Authority. The first involves the selection of the county administrator, and they're asking that they be included in the selection. And at this point, unless someone overrules me, I think we'll take that under advisement and come back and visit that, because we're not quite there yet. Anybody want to challenge that?
When you say we're not quite there yet, we've already taken applications.
As far as the selection part?
Right, and I thought we were going to discuss that tonight in closed session, and we didn't.
Well, actually, I've asked Rex to be with me, and we're going to go through the list, narrow down, and then we'll have a selection committee beyond that.
So you're not going to include the whole board in this selection process?
Well, this is just a winnowing. It may not be the final selection, but it'll get us down to where we have a more manageable group.
There again, you're letting 2 of 6 people decide who we get to choose from. I don't agree with that. All 6 of us represent people.
Well, if everybody else agrees with that, I don't mind. I mean, this was just the way we've done it in the past, and it worked well to eliminate those who probably were not qualified. But if the rest of you want to be involved with it, that's fine with me. I'll certainly acquiesce to whatever your choices are.
I'm not in favor of including the EDA. I think it should be the board that picks county administrator.
And I'm going to counter you on that, because whoever we pick as county administrator is their executive director, the way it's set up right now. I understand what they're saying. They should have a say-so in who's going to be their executive director. Unless we change it to where the county administrator is not their executive director, I think they should have a say-so in it. That's the way I feel. Thank you.
They're appointed by the board.
I'm looking for direction, but at this point, I'm still going to stay with 2 of us going through the original list. But if somebody wants to make a motion, that's fine.
With, the last time we did this, everybody evaluated it, most everybody, not everybody. They have an opportunity, everybody's got the little thing that's got the applicants, they can certainly evaluate those and send them forward. We'll look at every single candidate. And just because we select certain ones doesn't mean that we won't choose someone else. That's the way we did last time. They was, if you recall, Robbie, maybe it was 2 did it last time, and then the other group was one that did the initial interviews, then they selected the group, and then the full board did the final interviews. I don't know whether that's the way to
Let
do
me
it.
modify what I said. How about everybody looking and, looking at your candidates, and then coming up with 6 or 7 that you think are the best of the bunch?
You know, I think here recently, Michelle had prepared us a scoring type spreadsheet that we could take and score each candidate that we have the list for, and each person do that, and they all come back in, and everybody compile that list to make our pool to pick from. I think that might be a good thing to do.
I'm open to any suggestions.
I know this includes a meeting but it just sounds to me like that everybody wants to be involved with it. And after tonight, I would ask that y'all just recess the meeting and come back to a closed meeting and go through the applicants and as a group and spend 2 or 3 hours and then be done with it. And Michelle can provide you a matrix to grade those. And I assume most of you've read them all already, and so you've narrowed it down mostly already. So I would just ask that, or ask you to consider that after the meeting, just recess this meeting to a time that you all can come back and spend a few hours talking over them and be finished with it.
That sounds like a good plan, too.
I agree.
All right, that's what democracy and progress. When would be a good time for everybody to meet?
Tomorrow at 4:30,
5:30.
5:30.
Actually, there's a fire chiefs meeting tomorrow at 6, isn't there, Gary?
Wednesday at 5:30.
I can do that.
About 6.
6 o'clock, Wednesday.
That's fine with me.
'Cause I'm working until 5 something. Okay, we will recess this meeting until Wednesday at 6 o'clock in this room. And we'll probably go into the conference room for closed session. Is that in agreement with everybody? Do you still want Michelle to rank a little bit?
Well, that, there's no need for her to rank it, but that paper that she had was a very good, it asked several points, you know, that was important to the process. I think it'd be good for us to have those.
Okay, everybody be sure to do your homework between now and Wednesday. The second request from the EDA is that they request the Carroll County Board of Supervisors provide funding in the amount of $703,704 for payment of the invoice sent to the Carroll County EDA from the Carroll County Public Service Authority, which is attached.
That's a bill that's never been paid by the IDA.
I'm sorry. didn't you-
That's a bill that's never been paid by the EDA. And it's been in effect since 2008.
I don't believe that amount was in our budget, was it?
Looking at this invoice, serving on the PSA also, I feel like that some responsibility in this exit 19 wastewater and exit 19 water capacity fee should fall back to the responsibility of Brasida. That's just my opinion on those two items. These were all done as economic development projects, started in 2008 and then upgraded in 2015, and especially the exit 19 one was. And I feel like Reseda has some responsibility in those, in the exit 19 agreements.
Who was on the procedure?
I know.
Have y'all discussed it at all?
Yeah, we've discussed it. And they
If
don't-
I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I've said that since I've been here, that there's some, I would ask that the board direct the county attorney to look and see if there is a means, he's also works for the PSA, a means to develop a capacity fee that can be charged on a monthly or annual basis back to Brasida as part of the billing system. It would require, I think, a public hearing if it's, but he needs to determine if it's legal, how you go about it, and then make a recommendation back to the PSA, because the PSA would have to set that rate.
Do you need that in the form of a motion?
I would ask the county attorney, I put him on the spot.
I think I've got the direction that I
Okay.
need, and I'll obviously circle back with you if I have any questions or encounters, so it'll be good part of my evaluation.
When you look at the invoices, that's the two largest ones. So that's,
So we'll expect to hear back from you in September.
If that's all right, Dr. Little,
Thank you.
at that time, yeah.
I want to take one more question into that if I can, Tom. Am I right in that understanding that Brasida assumes no responsibility in this previously, but if a business ever does come to exit 19, they will receive receive part of the revenues that's generated from that action?
That is currently the agreement. They will receive 100% of the revenues.
Okay.
Any other questions or clarifications? Our next item on the new business is the delinquent tax list request, and there's a memo from our acting county administrator requesting that we request of the treasurer to provide a list of delinquent taxes pursuant to Virginia Code Section 58-1-3924. And I think that should be done by code, is that correct?
That is Virginia Code and also the Carroll County Board of Supervisors, the Carroll County ordinance to that effect, that there are 6 types of taxes, delinquent lists that are be submitted within 60 days by the end of the fiscal year to the board for consider and advice from the treasurer as to which delinquent lists are to be published in the paper, and the board then print those lists in the paper and direct some collection action.
Is that a consensus of the board, or would that be appropriate to have a motion to that effect?
You want a motion? You want a motion, not the motion? I'm sure you can hear me.
Motion?
Yes.
I thought you said, I can't read your lips. Do I have a motion to that effect, that we request the treasurer to provide us a list of delinquent taxes according to Virginia Code?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any kind of deadline on this?
According to the Code of Virginia, she had 60 days from the last day of the fiscal year to prepare that and send it to us. I already forwarded her an email a few days ago requesting that we get started with it, that the board would be on the agenda. So hopefully that we'll have it by August the 31st and be on the September agenda.
Okay, thanks. Is there any discussion? I guess you're ready to vote. We'll start with Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Yes. The next item on under new business is the PSA invoices, which there's a list of that you have. Mr. Dalton, you want to explain those?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we act as the payroll person for the PSA. We do the twice annual monthly payments. At the end of the month, we bill the PSA for those actual expenses from payroll. Those payrolls have not been paid since last July.
What action would the board like to take toward this?
I suppose we've sent them a bill.
These are copies of the invoices. We send them each month.
I guess they have a choice. They can either pay or do their own payroll. I guess we could pass it by a month and synthesize it a little bit.
My understanding is they paid the June bill, and I think the intent is to pay the rest of this budget year.
And wasn't that 700,000 at this time in the budget last year in 2019?
Yes, it was, and the board of supervisors removed it.
In February, so.
Every year they've been late. At least it shows that in the audit.
Does anyone want to take any action, or is this for information only at this point? Not hearing any motions, I'll assume that we're going to continue with it and go to the next item, which is the Robinson Farmer Cox engagement letter. You should have a copy of that.
We need approval from the Board of Supervisors for the county administrator and the chair of the board to sign this engagement letter. If you remember, we advertised, interviewed, and selected Robinson Farmer Cox and this past year as the auditors for the county, the PSA, and the EDA.
Make a motion, we approve the engagement letter.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? I'll start the vote with Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the new business agenda is the United Way Memorandum of Agreement.
Mr. Chairman, if you may, the agreement that's in your package, I would like to request the board consider the changes the county attorney sent earlier today, changing a couple of items. Under background, instead of Pulaski County, it's Carroll County, and that date should be August the 10th, 2020. There's small language up at the top in the memorandum of understanding on the date that strikes some of those letters entered into this day. And lastly, Section 3, the parties, there's a small changing where it says, the last paragraph under Section 3, the locality should read Carroll County will cooperate with the agency for relief projects and provide technical assistance as necessary.
And those are all just minor clarifications that don't change the substance of the memorandum of understanding, just basically catching typos and a few stray issues.
Is there a motion with accept the memorandum of understanding for the United Way?
Mr. Chair, I'll so make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? And we'll start the vote with Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Yes. Have to keep you on your toes, though, like Mr. McCraw. You have to look, see if I'm
I
talking.
have to look and see which one you're talking to.
Would you go over the year-end fiscal report, please, Mr. Dalton?
I will try, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have the June 30th end-of-year fiscal report from the treasurer. Last year's June 30th, 2019, the county had $6.8 million in the bank. In FY20, on June the 30th, we had $14.3 million. A total of all funds, very close to the same. Last year, $6.8 million. This year, $14.3 million. I called the treasurer's office earlier today. In June, we collected a little bit over $3 million worth of taxes, of real estate taxes. On the July 31st report, last year we had $4.8 million, this year $17.1 million. That includes an additional $3+ million of real estate taxes for almost $7 million real estate taxes collected mid-year. And it also includes $2.5 million of COVID dollars.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Dalton on that report?
So it looks like we're close to being on target as far as the collection, the mid-year collection. Correct. So it's about 7.1 million and we get about 14 million. So people went out and paid their taxes.
Actually, collections were outstanding of how that came about. It far exceeded the projections that we anticipated of collecting mid-year.
Thank you. Is there any other new business that's not listed? If not, we're going to old business. The first item on the old business is the CARES Act funding. I'm going to let Mr. Dalton refer to that also.
I handed out before the meeting some items on the CARES Act funding. We've had a lot of requests that's came into the county concerning CARES Act. So, of course, there's $5.198 million of monies we received from the state of Virginia that have to be spent by December the 30th on eligible items. The top of the list is an ambulance remount for the Carroll Fire and Rescue Squad of $173,053. The second item is an ambulance, a brand new ambulance for Laurel Rescue Squad. The actual number is closer to $254,000. Carroll Fire and Rescue, $274,521. The Town of Hillsville, $463,975. Sheriff Kemp asked for $212,000 of hazardous duty pay. The county remote working includes laptops for all the constitutional officers in every office in the county so that we could proceed to a status as we hit, instead of closing offices like we did last time, actually work from home and other places that we need to be. The second hazardous duty pay is in red. It includes hazardous duty pay not only beyond the sheriff's office, but for the PSA, the fire EMS, all the workers in the county. Those totals were prepared, and that's $600,000. Sanitizer, PPE devices, $20,000. COVID signage, as everybody's noticed, there's signs everywhere now, and every day it seems like we get new regulations of how to signage things, plus do training. Telework software is $82,000. Touchless mods, $38,270. Lexan barriers, $9,107. Additional cleaning supplies, $12,000. A fogger that disinfects rooms. If anybody that's been in that room has COVID, it can be disinfected. As most of you know, last week, we ran into this instance that a lot of people in the county had to go home. Servers remote distancing, that'd be a additional server, computers, and actually a backup system that we could remotely go online to do. The Carroll County Schools requested $1.7 million. Volunteer squads, $170,734. That's the volunteer rescue squads. We designated or asked to be designated $275,000 for small business grants. That's for companies and businesses with less than 25 that can come in and make application under the criteria that can help pay for those expenses where they've had to shut down and close for a period of time. And back through the county, they'd have to provide the same kind of documentation that's required as everyone else. Face piece, fit test, $8,040, and then there's $12,941 in reserves. For that, a grand total expenditure request of $5,185,359. The biggest questions, so that this I have tonight with the board, are these ambulances to get ordered, this telework, and also the servers have a long lead time so that you get them and delivered by the December the 30th date that I'd ask for the board to discuss and either say don't do it or do it, just for those items that have long lead time. And I guess I will speak to the ambulances. The board has delayed purchasing and doing things for ambulances. Laurel's newest ambulance, I think, is 12 years old. This will start us into a progression of changing out ambulances, and our discussions with Laurel and Piper's Gap and Laurel Fork is they will start getting the new ambulances, run them till they get a few years service, then rotate them back to the county so the county can put the big miles on them and finish wearing them out.
To reiterate, you're asking for the two ambulances on the top there, the remount and the ambulance.
Yes, sir.
And work on the servers.
And the servers, so we can get that started. There's such a long lead time. It appears everybody in the country with this remote working has the same stipulations that it has to be spent by December the 30th. So you've got to get a purchase order in and get it ordered and get it online so that you can receive it and have it paid by those dates.
So those are 4 items you're asking for approval tonight?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we move forward with those 4 items, and so we get those things squared away and in process and here before we have to lose opportunity for this funding.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
All the rest of it is pretty much just expenditures as they come in, I'm assuming. These are just things that has to be done immediately to get them in.
These are the items that you got to order, the Lucas devices, I can't pronounce that word that they talk about, the thing you stick down your throat where you... Incubator. Yes. So if we can get all those things online, the rest of the discussions can be had as we move forward.
I do have one question also. On the town's proposal, was some of their stuff that needed to be ordered also? I think some of theirs was
I think so. These telemods and things right here are really part of the town stuff. These touchless mods, teleware, software, etc. And Mr. Moore, what we intend to do with that is go ahead and process this, send a letter and ask that they sign the original agreement that we sent over, and so that they can get this online too.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed with the motion to fund these 4 items, and I'll start with Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Dr. Little, before we move on, there's, under the volunteer rescue squads, we had a long discussion last week with the rescue squads. Under this volunteer, there's actually some money put aside to try to put a first responder in every rescue squad, one at Laurel, and do some things to increase the coverage area of those. Hopefully by the next meeting, we can have that back to the board, and so we can move forth, because those test type of things of short-term to see if they work out, then long-term, the board will need to consider funding for those long-term too.
Thank you.
I think, you said Laurel, but I think our primary,
Laurel Ford.
Laurel Ford. Just put
It
Laurel
is.
Ford.
Next item on our old business agenda is the storage tank closure at the old garage.
You have the report. It's been certified, DEQ's accepted it. It turned out that, in actuality, there was a water line over top the fuel tank, so we couldn't take it out of the ground, so they did the alternative method of filling the tank and getting it certified that manner. Otherwise, we'd had to take out the town water system for a period of time and replace water lines, and we just felt that the alternative method DEQ approved was just as good as the original method of removing the tank.
So that's been accomplished at this point.
It is complete and paid for.
Was it about the same funding?
It was the same price.
Now, next item is committee appointments, and I have one that's not listed, but I'll ask Mr. Moore and Mr. Webb to be members of a Hillsville Liaisons Committee that will meet with a couple of town council members, and if they want the mayor and our county administrator to be part of that, that's fine, but if you two would be willing to serve in that capacity, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That one actually is on there.
I'm sorry.
It actually is on there. On the list.
And under the other appointments that are needed, there's regional library, 2 on the EDA, 1 PSA, and 1 county town. I'm sorry, that's what you don't have.
Ms. Leonard has asked to be reappointed. She's been a good member up to date.
Mary Leonard has been asked to be reappointed to the regional library, and her term expired on July the 1st of this year.
I make a motion, we reappoint Ms. Leonard to the Regional Library Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? We'll start the vote with Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to take any action on the other 3, the 2 EDAs and the 1 PSA? Have we had anybody request those?
We have one for the EDA. I think it's included in the packet.
Do you want to continue those, or do you want to try to take action tonight?
PSA, yeah.
Now, the PSA would actually be Mr. Hill's appointment.
I'll fill that position.
Do what?
I said, I'll volunteer to fill that position.
Does he need to be appointed? Does he have to be appointed, or?
It needs a vote of the board of supervisors, yes.
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Hill to the PSA board.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? This will be from the Sulphur Springs District. Seeing no discussion, I'll start the vote with Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Abstain.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Yes. Welcome to the PSA board. Do you want to wait on the other two till next meeting?
What districts are they in, or? just-
I don't think we appoint those from districts.
That's at large through the county.
Okay.
My preference,
There's 7 of those by code instead of 6.
Okay.
my preference is, I would like to interview these folks. I don't know where that can be done, where it can be done here, but I don't know this gentleman. But I think he lives in my district.
Dustin?
Yep.
No, sir.
Where does he live?
He lives in Tom's district.
Tom's district, huh?
His dad owns Greg's Core Supply. He's a young man, just recently graduated from college. I say recently, I think maybe a year ago. Went to Virginia Tech, strong background in I lost my train of thought. Extension agent type stuff, but he works for his dad now. I just happen to know him because he rents land behind me, off of a neighbor behind me. I frequently get to talk to him a lot because he's got cows back there. Nice young man, but I agree with you. I think if we had an opportunity or if there's some way we could do it, it would be really good to interview some of these people.
Especially on the EDA board, that's,
Maybe we could publicize to make sure folks know that there are openings and get some applications in and see if we can.
Just on the website, Facebook.
I think so.
I thought it was
Somebody
Rippy.
else has a better idea.
That'd be good.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, ask the county attorney a question. Can the board interview those prospective EDA members in closed session, or it has to be open session? How's the proper method to do that?
I think you can do it in closed session.
Okay, we'll continue the other appointments until a little bit later time. Our next item is the land use ordinance, which seems like it's going to be really old business. And again, I'm going to let Mr. Dalton or our county attorney talk about that.
Dr. Littrell, we've had some discussions in the past about possible changes to the land use ordinance, and regardless of whether the county wants to make substantive changes to it, there are some tweaks that need to be made as far as timelines for just filing the application and things of that nature. So we would be asking the board to approve a public hearing for the September meeting to adopt those minor changes at the least. And I'll be preparing an advertisement and a draft ordinance to change those sort of filing deadline issues.
Okay, thank you. The county attorney's requested that we schedule a public hearing next meeting, September the 14th at 6 o'clock or some close time after that to tweak our ordinance. Is there a motion to that effect?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, before you get a second, can we include the elderly and tax change in that whole public hearing for that too, for the change? So we have 2 public hearings on it.
I'll amend my motion.
Okay, the motion is for two public hearings, one for the CARES Act funding and one is for the land use ordinance.
Real estate tax exemption
I'm
for
sorry,
elderly and disabled.
I beg your pardon, taxes. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
This is not to redo the land use, it's just specific changes.
That's correct, Mr. Hill. We're looking to, because we've gone to twice-a-year tax collection, some of those filing deadlines are going to have to change to accommodate the new timelines that we have. And so it would really be just essentially changing the filing dates and filing fee figure, I think, would be up for discussion as well.
It's not to eliminate it, it's just to make,
This is not to repeal the land use ordinance.
You want to put a double line under that?
yep.
Any other discussion or clarifications? We'll start the vote with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Yes. Our next item under old business is a real estate tax exemption for the elderly but disabled, and you should have a form on that from our Commonwealth's attorney, excuse me, our Commissioner of Revenue. Does anybody want to discuss that beforehand?
You just,
We
That was
just
just the
incorporated
motion
that
that we
into
put
the-
in it with the land use.
you already set the public hearing.
Yeah.
You all are just ahead of me tonight. Is there any other old business to come before the board? I have nothing else listed.
I do. I want to make the board aware that I'd like to see something done with the pole project, in the coming weeks ahead. Maybe get the county administrator involved with the pole project, the internet, with all the kids, it's going to be a homeschool and all. I think it's something we really, and I know me and you spoke last month about, some of these franchise agreements with them, to bring these gentlemen in so we can discuss, what we need to do rather than just giving a franchise agreement and then being stagnant.
We had a virtual meeting last week with Mount Rogers, the VIA organization, the broadband group from Trough, and there's somebody else there, Michael Clemens from Gigabee. They are working on an application. Michael is putting together all the cost estimates to make an application to move that forth, and trying to come up with a schedule to maximize the $100,000 that we currently have as a grant for the wired road to do that. So we're moving forth. We're supposed to get back together on next Tuesday, I believe, or Wednesday, to see where his cost estimates are on that pole project. And we've also are doing a view shed analysis of where those poles need to be to serve the maximum amount. Mr. Clemens is preparing a map. Under the current regulations, you cannot duplicate broadband services like the one below the mountain. And Xfinity's got a bunch along 58 between Hillsville and Galax. So he's preparing that map of which areas can be served, and we can tap into that line of sight. And we're also doing a tree shed thing of when the foliage is on, because that has a big impact of what the poles can do and the line of sight can do.
And I think, aren't they one of the, is Xfinity or somebody giving free hotspot in certain places?
Currently, there's a map. You go to Xfinity from Route 100 all the way to Galax, that you can actually, till December. that
Is there
there's
some way we could put that on Facebook or county website,
we
how to go
can.
about
I
it?
forwarded all that information to the school.
Okay, all right. Get that out there because I'm sure a lot of people could use it.
We sent that information to superintendent schools to send out to the kids because it's important for everybody that is going to McDonald's or to the library, sitting in the parking lot, if it's a place close to the house,
Right.
that they can get that done.
I know we had a franchise agreement or approval for a new franchise or franchise extension with Xfinity here just recently.
It's
Is
supposed
it
to be the September meeting.
September meeting. Are they gonna be able to have someone here or?
We can request. I'm
And I-
not sure that they intended to have anybody here.
Well, I think that we should, some way, and maybe in some of the agreement, that they should have to expand their services so many % each year that they are serving the area. And I wondered if that's something we could incorporate into that agreement.
Actually, that's something that's the exact same point Dr. Littrell made, I think, at last month's meeting. And so
Okay.
I've been looking at the franchise agreement for, to see what provisions we could put in there.
And is there something we can maybe do to speak with citizens too, or?
Sure, I can call Gary Reedy. He's their broadband person over there. I can probably get him to a board meeting if you want to.
That'd be great, because I think it's of the essence right now with not knowing what the future holds.
Any other old business? The next item is the one that I added, that's the supervisor's time. I'm going to start with Mr. Webb.
Thank you, sir. Do have a couple questions. It probably could have come under old business, but I've had some people calling me over the past month. I know this board set aside a amount of money for nonprofits because we included none of the nonprofits in our current budget. But right at the last minute, we amended that and we set aside a amount of money. I'm not sure what that was now. And was told that they would be able to apply for that money. Has anything been done? Because they're not aware of it. I got a call from Law Fork Community Center wanting to know about the money. How do we apply for it? When are we going to be able to apply for it? So is there anything been done toward making that money available to our nonprofits?
That was $25,000, and my understanding was they would make an application anytime after July the 1st.
It is on our website. We actually have received 4 or 5 applications so far, so it's out there, and people are responding.
Okay. Yeah. So many people don't look at the website and stuff. I wondered, I've got to get back in touch with them tomorrow on that. I also received a request from Galax Fire Department. They're hearing, and I'll read it. We've heard some talk that the county is going to request that the fire departments that get reimbursed are going to have to start to submit their annual allocation, what their annual allocations are spent on. Do you know if this is the truth or whatever? I don't know what to tell them.
We discussed that during the budget. We did request that everybody on the volunteer side provide some kind of budget and the financial documents of how they spent the money that the county was sending.
Okay, well, evidently they didn't get that information. But I'll get back in touch with him and tell him yes. Okay. Something else I wanted to bring up, and there's a lot of stuff that's been rumors to me floating around that the prices that the farmers are going to have to pay this fall at the farmers market have been increased, and I would like to know if that's true and why.
The boxes we buy as a service, we have increased the price of those. That came, we discussed that as we were going through the budget. Mr. Simonis gave us a low end, middle end, and the high end of where it was at. He hadn't changed the prices on the reimbursement of boxes. We were actually losing money on boxes and services. We were actually keeping people over there working overtime, and we were loading everybody's, doing all their work for them, and we did include an overtime rate, and rates to use the equipment so that we can eventually replace that stuff. And there's always been rates for that, just never charged them.
I suppose those rates haven't been updated since it came under the county?
I don't know. I don't think they've been changed at all.
Okay.
We can buy boxes in bulk and then change, if they bought the box, actually, they'd still be cheaper than if they bought them directly. The boxes.
Okay. Is there a rumor out there that the market is for sale?
The market is not for sale. We've asked, and Kevin is looking to see if there is a group out there. There's already a farmers group out there. If they make a proposal on to run that on their own, or not. But there's been no formal request or anything else. Mr. Smothers is talking with that group if they're interested to form a association of that to see if they want to do that.
Okay. What's going on with GIS right now?
What's going on with it?
Right, we closed our GIS department, and you informed us that Twin County 911 was going to service the county, but it's my understanding, a rumor, that they're not going to, and that we have had to hire a consultant agent to come in and do the work for us. Is that true?
We have hired a consultant coming in and train the Commissioner of Revenue people. They'd asked that they be trained. Jolene and the E911 does issue the 911 addresses and keeps up the county map and sends us updates. That is part of the E911 agreement. We have one in the office if they'd like to see.
Are they the ones doing the training for the Commissioner of Revenue?
No, we've hired somebody to do the training. Jolene is not a certified trainer.
Well, I'm just going to be blunt. I'm going to be very, very blunt, because that's the way I am. All this stuff is done behind this board's back. We're getting secondhanded information that this is being done. If we hired a consultant firm, shouldn't it have went out for bids for different firms to bid on? We're spending county taxpayers' money. If we were going to raise the prices at the farmer market, shouldn't this board had a say-so in doing it instead of just being done behind our back? I just don't understand how business is being conducted now. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but I've got a lot of people in the Law Fort District that's not happy with what's going on up here right now, especially farmers. I mean, these people are betting on using that market this fall, and now their prices have gone up, and there's rumors out there that they're trying to sell it and get rid of it. I mean, I don't think the whole board up here is being included in some of this decision-making. On the other hand, I want to send my condolences to Tracy in the sudden loss of his father. I know it's tough, and I'm sorry that happened. I want to thank the people that did come out tonight, and I hope you're not having as much trouble making sense of this thing as I am. But I'm just really struggling with what all's going on. Hope everybody survived the earthquake yesterday. Had no clue. That's the first one I've felt. So they said the last one that occurred in North Carolina was 1916. I hope the next one is, I won't be around. Maybe it'll shake me in the ground a little bit. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was broadband, but I know Tracy has covered that before I got a chance to. And with that being said, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCall?
I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. I have been thinking a lot about something, and I'd like for us, if I need to make it in the form of a motion, I'll make it in the form of a motion, but went through these minutes tonight, and we looked at a lot of things, and looked at the PSA, and where we're at with it, and see, you know, ultimately, the county has that financial responsibility, the moral obligation to oversee the debt that falls on the PSA. I think we need to consider or have staff to begin looking at maybe making it a department for the county and maybe just do away with the PSA. Just, like I say, make it a public service department. And thank everybody on the board for serving with us, and that's about all I have.
Mr. Moore?
One thing I'd like to, just to reiterate what Joe said, about the farmer's market. You know, I know that there was 3 different things back in the spring when going through the finances and the budget and stuff, was low end, middle end, high end, and we went to the high end, and I'd just like maybe the board to look at the rate there and see if we might could, you know, back her down some to a point where it would help the farmers, especially all of a sudden, you know, anytime, you know, whether it's insurance or anything, you know, you plan stuff and budget stuff, and then you think you can sort of dictate your finances through a period, but, and you know, you do have issues that causes, you know, to lose more money or this or that, but just, you know, whenever they were going into putting their crops in the ground back in the spring, I'm pretty much assured that they probably thought that they knew what the rate was going to be, and then, you know, all of a sudden, then it's different, and it's just tough on them. And more and more with this pandemic, you know, I see that we, you know, in my eyes, that we really need our farmers and to feed us and take care of us. But also, I'd like to thank everybody for the condolences and the cards that they sent. The prayers, and it's been humbling to see what the county, you know, I get cards in the mail from the maintenance department, from the treasurer's office. I get emails, calls, and texts from the guys I serve with on the board and the community, and continue to keep us in your prayers. It's tough right now, and I've struggled with this all week, and I felt like I do owe the citizens of Pine Creek apology for the last couple of weeks. It's been hard getting back in the game here, but just bear with me, and hopefully we'll get back going. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wall? Oh, you might-
I got a lot I'd like to cover, and I hope we can get it all in. Cana Convenience Center has been a hot topic down my way. Phone calls, people meeting me talking about it. I've practically been called a liar because they lost $60,000. That was what I was told. They said, well, I know they didn't pay them people over that much money, so how could it have lost $60,000 a year? Okay. The landfill over here does not belong to Carroll County. It's Preseda, Carroll, Grayson, and the city of Galax. Cost us $50 a ton to take it over there and dump it. Got the help to pay. We borrowed the landfill truck to bring it up here with. $185 a trip, I've been told. So you put all of that together. We've been blessed to have the convenience center. The other 4 districts don't have one. So if it's losing $60,000 a year, that means the other districts is split up into that. They're paying $12,000 a year for us to have that. I cannot go go over there and run it. I don't have the time. I have other things to do. Robbie being the supervisor at large, he's got part into it, sure. But he don't have time, I don't think, either, because he got a job. And I thought about, well, we could put our salary, what the county pays us to be a supervisor. We could put that together, and it comes up a whole lot less if we put that in. Still wouldn't be 60,000, so there we are. What we're gonna do. We opened it back up for a quarter, $4 a bag. I've had some that jump me about that. They were unhappy with that. That is a price that was set to operate for a quarter and see what it really would take to make it break even. And that maybe could be lowered a little bit, but people are not using it. Then I've had some handicapped, they'll tell me, well, I take 3 bags over there. They're small. I can get them in one bigger bag, but I can't throw them in. So I took my time Saturday morning, went over and talked to the guy that's there looking after it, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And he assured me that if you'd bring, I think a 30-gallon bag is your limit for baggage. He assured me if you'd bring your garbage in a 30-gallon garbage bag, and he could get it out of your car, off your pickup or whatever, he would put it in there for you, and I believe he'd do it. And so that answers that problem. But where we gonna come up with the money if you don't use it and you don't, I'm serious. I've looked at everything that I can to try to come up with it. It's not fair for Laurel Fork, Pine Creek, the other districts to pitch in for us to have something that they don't have the benefit of. And we had a tax increase. Nobody likes to pay more taxes, so we got a problem. Help me solve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Just want to thank everybody for being here. Just keep in mind, make sure you wear face protection and social distancing and washing your hands. We've got to stop this thing. It's going to get worse. Probably, maybe, hopefully not, but we have to be careful with this. And pray for everyone. Pray for this to go away. I paid $29 2 weeks ago going over to the landfill. Just a little small lawnmower trailer load, so just to give you a little ammunition there, Philip. I know where you're coming from there. And I appreciate the staff, all the staff's work, where they kept this building clean, EMS, law enforcement. I mean, we've made it through this far without having our folks, I guess, contaminated by the coronavirus. And that's all I got to say. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Again, I want to appreciate those who could come. I think we have up to 23 people in the room, and I think we just about got to that point tonight almost. And as things get better, we'll try to increase that number. And I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. And I concur with what Mr. Hill said as far as wearing our mask and keeping our social distance, because we can stop this if we will stop the transmission from person to person. I do have one announcement for something you may want to look forward to. Rhiannon Powers is going to be here in the September meeting on the 14th, and she's the executive director of District 3, which we are a part of, and she's going to talk about the services and the opportunities for the Carroll County elderly. And I'm on that particular board, and it's amazing the opportunities and services that they offer, and a lot of people are not aware of what they are. So I think there'll be a very enlightening presentation when Rhiannon is here. She's a very nice lady. And that's all I had. I think we covered a lot of territory tonight. We had almost 2 pages full of agenda. And so I thought we did well. I appreciate everybody being here again. And I would call for recess until Wednesday, August the 12th, 2020 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of going into closed session for the county administrator applications.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor of going into recess until Wednesday, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good night and thank you, everybody. Drive safe.
Mr. Crawford, let me tell you how you figure out that